gonna read the chapter 2 about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Chapter 2, Dobby's Warning. Harry managed not to shout out, but it was close thing. The little creature on the bed had large, but like ears and building green eyes the season tennis balls. Harry knew instantly that this was that had been watching him out of the garden held at morning. As they started at each other, Harry heard Dursley's voice from the pool. May I take your coats, Miss and Mr. Masons? The creature slipped off the bed and bowed so slow that the end of his long did not touch the carpet. Harry noticed that it was wearing that looked like a old pillowcase with ribs for arms and leg holes. Very hello, said Harry nervously. Harry Potter, said the creature, and high-pitched voice Harry was sure would carry down the stairs. So long was Dobby wanting to meet you, sir. Such your honor it is. Thank you, said Harry, edging along the wall and sinking into the desk chair next to Within, who was asleep in her large cake. He wanted to ask, "What are you?" but though it would sound too rude. So instead he said, "Who are you, Dobby?" "Yes, just Dobby. Dobby the house elf," said the creature. "Oh, really?" said Harry. Er, I don't want to be rude or anything, but this isn't a great time for me to have a house elf in my bedroom. Aunt Petunia hid false loud thunder from the living room. The elf hung his head. "No, that I'm not pleased to meet you," said Harry quickly. "But is there any particular reason you're here?" "Oh, yes, sir," said Sir Dobby, earnestly. "Dobby has come to tell you, sir. It is difficult, sir. Dobby wonders where to begin." "Sit down," said Harry, politely, pointing at the bed. To his horror, the elf burst into tears, very noisy tears. Sit down," he wailed. Never, never." Harry threw her head the boys downstairs, faltered. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I didn't mean to offer you or anything." "Offend Dobby?" Closed the elf. Dobby was never being asked to sit down by a wizard like a equal. Harry trying to say shh and look comforting at the same time ushered Dobby back to down the bed, where he sat incoating, looking like a large and very ugly doll. At last he managed to control himself and sat with his great eyes fixed on Harry in an expression of watery adoration. "You can have met many decent wizards," said Harry, trying to cheer him up. Dobby shook his head, then without warning he leapt up and started banging his head furiously at the window, shouting, but Dobby! "Don, what are you doing?" Harry hisses, jumping on and pulling Dobby back onto the bed. Hedwig had woken up with a particularly loud scream and was beating their wings wildly against the bar of her cage. "Dobby has to punish himself, sir," said the elf, who had gone singly cross-eyed. "Dobby almost spoke ill of his family, sir." "Your family?" "The wizard family double service, sir. Dobby is a house elf, bound to sell one house and one family forever. Do they know you're here? asked Harry curiously. Dobby, Dobby shook their heads. Oh no, sir, no. Dobby will have to punish himself most grievously for coming to see you, sir. Dobby will have to shoot his ears in the oven door of this. If they even knew, sir, but don't they notice if you shoot your ears in the oven door? Dobby does it. Sir, Dobby is always having to push it himself for something, sir. They let Dobby get on with it. Sir, sometimes there remains to do extra punishment. But why don't you leave? Escape? Uh, a house elf must be served free, sir, and the family would never set Dobby free. Dobby will serve the family until he dies, sir. Harry started, and I thought I was hard done by staying here for another 4 weeks. He said, this makes the Dursley sounds almost human. Can anyone help you? Can't I? Almost at once, Harry whispered. He hasn't spoken. Dobby dissolved again into wells of gratitude. Please, Harry whispered uh, frantically. Please be quiet. If he Dursley hear anything, if they know you're here. Harry Potter asked if he can help Dobby. Dobby has hair on your greatness, sir, for of your goodness Dobby never knew. Hmm. Harry, who has feeling distinctly hot in the face, said, whatever you hear about my greatness is a lot of rubbish. I'm not ever top of my year at Hogwarts. That's Hermione. But he stopped quickly because thinking about Hermione was painful. Harry Potter is humble and modest, says Dobby vehemently. His orb-like is a law. Harry Potter speaks not of his triumph over he who must not be named. Voldemort, said Harry. Dobby clapped his hands over his bad ears and moaned, ah, speak now the name, sir, speak now the name. Sorry, said Harry quickly. I know lots of people don't like it. My friend Ron, he stopped again. Ah, hola Angélica. Um, he stopped again. Thinking about Ron was painful too. Dobby leaned towards Harry, his eyes white as hell lamps. Dobby heard tell. He said harshly that Harry Potter met the Dark Lord for a second time, just weeks ago. Just weeks ago, that Harry Potter escaped yet again. Harry nodded, and Dobby's eyes suddenly shone with tears, and sir, he gasped, dabbing his face with a corner of the gobbly pillowcase he was wearing. Harry Potter is valiant and bold. He has braved too many dangers already, but Dobby has come to protect Harry Potter to warn him, even if he does have to shoot his earns in the oven door later. Harry Potter must not to back to Hogwarts. There was a silence broken only by the clinch of knife and force from downstairs and the distant rumble of Uncle Vernon's voice. What? Sari stammered. But I go to back. The start of September's the first. It's all that's keeping me going. You don't know what it's like here. I don't belong here. Belong in work? At Hogwarts? No, no, no. Speak it. Dobby, shaking his head so hard his ear flapped. Harry Potter must stay where he is safe. He is too great, too good, too lost. If Harry Potter goes back to Hogwarts, he will be in mortal danger. Why? Sorry, Harry? In surprise, there's a plot. Harry Potter, a plot to make most terrible things happen at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. This year whispered Juby, suddenly trembling all over. Um, Dobby was now it for months. Sir Harry Potter must not put himself in peril. He is too important, sir. What terrible things, said Harry at once. Who's plotting them? Dobby make a funny cooking noise, and they dampened his hair mainly against the wall. All right, cried Harry, grabbing the elf's arm to stop him. You can stay. I understand, but why are you warning me? At sudden, unplanned struck him. Can on it wasn't got anything to do with ball. Sorry. Will you know who was it? You could just shake or nod. He added hastily as Dobby's hair tilted worryingly close to the wall again. Slowly, Dobby shook his head. Not he who must not be named, sir. But Dobby's eyes were wide, and he seemed to be trying to give Harry a hint. Harry, however, was completely at sea. He wasn't got a broken has he? Dobby shook his head. His eyes withered than ever. Well then, I can think who else would have a chance of making horrible things happen at Hogwarts, said Harry. I mean, there's Dumbledore for one thing. You know who Dumbledore is, don't you? Dobby bowed his head. Albus Dumbledore is the greatest headmaster Hogwarts had even had. Dobby knows it, sir. Dobby has heard Dumbledore's power as rival thoughts of he who must not to be named and the height of his strength. But, sir, Dobby's voice dropped. Urgent whispered. There are powers Dumbledore doesn't. The powers know the same wizard. And before Harris could stop him, Dobby tumbled off the bed, chastened Harry's desk lamp, and started beating himself around the head with air-splitting yelps. A sudden silence filled downstairs. 2 seconds later, Harry heard, Turing mainly heard, Uncle Vernon coming into hall, calling. Dudley must have left his television due again. The little tick. Quick in the wardrobe. Hisses Harry, stroking Dobby in, shouting of shifting the door and flinging himself onto the bed just as his door handle turned. What the devil are you doing? Say Uncle Vernon. Through gritted teeth, his face horribly close to Harry's. You've just ruined the punchline. Oh my Japanese horrified joke. One more sound and you'll wish you'd never been born, boy. He stumped flat-footed from the room. Shaking, Harry led Dobby out of the wardrobe. See what it's like here, he said. See why I've got to back to Hogwarts. It's the only place I've got. Well, I think I've got friends. Friends who don't even write to Harry Potter, said Dobby slyly. I expect we must with just been hang on, said Harry, frowning. How do you know my friends haven't been reading to me? Dobby shuffled his feet. Harry Potter mustn't be angry, and Dobby did it for the for the best. Have you ever stopped my letters? Dobby has them there, sir, said the elf. Stepping nimbly out to Harry's reach, he pulled a thick one of envelopes from the inside of the pillows case he was wearing. Harry could make out Hermione's neat greeting, Ron's undoubtedly scrawled, and ever a scribble that looked as though it was from the Hogwarts game kit Harry. Dobby blinked anxiously up at Harry. Harry Potter mustn't be angry. Dobby, hope if Harry Potter thought his friends had forgotten him, Harry Potter might not want to back down to school, sir. Harry wasn't listened. He made a grab to the letters, but Dobby jumped out to the reach. Harry Potter will have them, sir, if he gives Dobby his word that he will not return to Hogwarts. Arthur, this is danger you must not face. Say you won't go back, sir. No, said Harry angrily. Give me my friends, letters. Then Harry Potter leaves Dobby no choice, said the elf sadly. Before Harry could move, Dobby had darted to the bedroom door, pulled it open, and steamed down the stairs, mouth dry, stomach lurching. Harry stamped after him, trying not to make a sound. He jumped the last 6 stairs, landing can like on the hall carpet, looking around for Dobby from the dining room and heard Uncle Vernon saying, "Tell Petunia that very funny story about American plumbers. Mr. Mansus, he's been trying to hear it." Mm, Harry ran the hall into the kitchen and felt his stomach disappear. Aunt Petunia's masterpiece of a pudding, the mountain of cream and sugared violets, was floating up near the ceiling, on top of a cupboard in the corner crouched Dobby. "No!" cried Davy. "Please, they'll kill me! Harry Potter must say he's going back to school. Davy, please say it, sir. I can't." Dobby gave him a traffic look. "Then Dobby must do it, sir, for Harry Potter's own good." They put him well off the door with a hair-splitting crash. Cream splattered the windows as wild as the dish shattered, with a clack like a whip. Dobby's vanished. There were screams from the dining room, and Uncle Vernon rushed into the kitchen to find Harry, ragged with shock, covered from ear to foot on Petunia's pudding. At first it looked as though Uncle Vernon would manage to close the whole thing over. Just our nephew, very disturbed, smearing strangeness upset him to the kept him upstairs. He shoved the shook Mason back into the dining room, promised Harry he wouldn't fly him to within an inch of his life when the Mansos has left, and handed him a mop. Aunt Petunia dunked some ice cream up to the freezer, and Harry will is shaking start scrubbing the kitchen clean. Uncle Vernon might still have been able to make this deal if it hadn't been to the owl. Um, Aunt Petunia was just having round a box of a offered dinner. Mine's when a huge one on shooted through the dining room window, dropped a letter of Mr. Manson's head, and shouted out again. Mr. Manson, shapen like a banshee, and ran from the house, shouting about lunatics. Mr. Manson stayed just long enough to tell the Dursley what his wife was mortally afraid of birds of all shapes and sizes, and to ask wherever is was the idea for a joke. Harry stood in the kitchen, clutching the mop for support, as Uncle Vernon advanced of him at the morning glint in this tiny eye. Read it, she hissed avidly. Bansley, the letter the owl had delivered, gone to read it. Go on, read it! Harry took it. It did not contain birthday greetings. And this is a part of the cards. Okay. Dear Mr. Potter, we have recently intelligence that a hour claims what use at your place of residence this evening at 12 minutes past 9. As you know, the underage wizard had not permitted to perform spells outside the school, and further spell work on your part may lead to expulsion from said schools. Decree for the reasonable restrictions of underage sorcery 1875, paragraph C. We would also ask to remember that any magical activity which risked notice by members of the not magical community, muggles, is a serious offence under Section 13 of the International Confederation of Warlocks Statute of Secrecy. Enjoy your holidays. You certainly Masla Hokik. Improve use of magic office. Ministry of Magic. Okay, the end of the card. Harry looked up from the letter and glooped. You didn't tell you weren't allowed to use magic outside the school, says Uncle Vernon, a mad gleam dancingly in his eyes. Forgot to mention it. Slippered your mind, I dare say. He was peering down the Harris like a great bulldog, all his teeth bared. Well, I've got news for you, boy. I'm looking you up. You're never going back to that school. Never. If you try and magic yourself out, they'll accept you. And laughing like a maniac, he dragged Harry back upstairs. Uncle Vernon was apart at his work. The following morning, he paid a man to feed parts of Harry's windows. He himself fitted the cat flame in the bedroom door. To that small amount of good could be pushed inside 3 minutes a day. They let Harry out to use the bathroom mornings and every evening otherwise. There was luck in his room around the clock. 3 days later, the Dursley were showing no sign of relenting, and Harry couldn't see any way of, out of his situation. The lie on his bed, watching the sun sinking behind the bars on the door, and bordered miserably was going to happen to him. What was the good of magicking himself out of his room. If Howard would exploit him for doing it, that life of private drive has reacted of all-time low. None the Dursleys knew they weren't going to make up the fruit bats. He had lost his only weapon. Dudley Midcap saved Harry from horrible happenings at Hogwarts, but the way things were going, he'd probably starve to death anyway. The cat flapped, rated, and Aunt Petunia had appeared, punching a pound of thinner shop into the room. Harry, whose insides were acting with hunger, jumped off his bed and seized it. The soup was a stone cold, but he drank half of it in one gulp. Then he crosses the room to, to Hagrid's cake and tipped the soggy vegetables at the bottom of the bowl into the empty food tray. She rubbed a Fergus and gave him to look for deep disgust. It's not good turning your back up at it. That's all you've got, said Harry grimly. He put the empty bowl back the floor next to the cat flat and lay side down on the bed, somehow even hungrier than he had been before the soup. Supposing he was still alive in another 4 weeks, what would happen if he didn't turn up at Hogwarts? Would someone be sent to see why he hadn't come back? Would they be able to make the Dursleys let him go? The room was roaring dark, Xariel's stomach rumbling, Min spinning over the same Uran's-Webley questions. Harry left into an uneasy sleep. He dreamed that he was on show in a zoo with a card reading Underar. Wizard attacked to his cage. People goggled through the bars at him as he lay, starting and weak, on a bed of straw. He saw Dobby's face in the crowd and shouted out, asking to help. But Dobby called, Harry Potter is safe there, sir, and vanished. Then the Dursley appeared and Dursley rattled the bars in the cage, lounged at him. Stop killing Harry Murder as, as the rating pound in his sore head. Leave me alone. Cut it out. I'm trying to sleep. They opened his eyes. Moonlight was shining through the bars of the window, and someone was googling through the beers at him. A thickly faced, red-haired, long-nosed someone. Ron Weasley was outside Harry's window. And that's all. Eh, the next day I tried to read the chapter 3, but today it's all. Thank you so much, and see you después. Y listo, no, yo me cansé, güey.